with the first pick in the NFL draft.
Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag Draft Show. We are back again with our top 10 draft prospects. We say top 10. If you watched our last show, it's 2 top 5s that make a 10, so slightly different. Today we are covering the linebackers and the defensive linemen, which rounds out every position of the draft. And then we will have our official franchise tag mock draft. So really looking forward to that. And the draft is literally around the corner. Adam, 2 positions we're going to cover. Defensive line, again, 2 different styles of defensive linemen. You have the run stoppers and you have the people who get after the quarterback in that position. I think that predominantly within this draft, there's a lot of run stoppers in there. And I think I was quite high at the start of the process on a lot of these guys. And then when you talk about the needs and what people might need, I think the fact that they're run stoppers is pushing their stock down a little bit. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, that was probably the one thing that I was actually going to come out and say before we started. I felt like, so what I do is I look at some of the players during the summer because it's quite useful to see the new guys and what they've done. And then obviously they have the whole season and you go back and look at the tape. And I think when you look at what was there in the summer, I think there was actually some promise that we were going to have a really strong defensive tackle class this year. Looking after the season and who the guys are that everyone's looking at and how they feel they're going to be good, does kind of feel a bit of a shame. It hasn't quite panned out that way. And it feels like there is a lot of run stoppers here, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but it obviously limits to a certain extent the excitement of what you're going to get. We've seen with mock drafts, haven't we, from sort of like, the big analysts and stuff like that, there's very few defensive tackles going in the first round, if any, on occasion. So it's I think we were all hoping that some of these names, certainly the sort of number 1 and number 2, were going to be sort of like pushing up towards the front half of this draft in the first round, but it's just not really panned out that way. And I feel like you might get 1 or 2, maybe, but it's a bit hit and miss if they are. And yeah, they've just not panned out the way that we hoped.
Yeah. Well, we'll start talking about them and we'll move into our top 5. So first up, we have got Christian Miller from the Georgia Bulldogs. He's 21, 6'4", 321 pounds, recorded no sacks, 19 pressures, and had a pass rush win rate of 11.7%. Because he was a former 4-star recruit. He's actually through this whole process, he's one of the rare Georgia players that we've actually spoke about in previous years. It's especially on defense. It's Georgia. So it seems odd to be talking about the first one of this draft show, but had a shoulder injury in 2024, had surgery on that, but then came back 2025, started every single game. Georgia really struggled at the start of the year for me in terms of getting pressure, and that D-line wasn't the D-line that we've seen in previous years. And I do feel like when it started to get going, especially in the Ole Miss game as well, that Christian Miller was the guy that kind of started it all off and got it going. So I do really like what I saw for him, especially at the back end of the year where we really started to kick on and we saw more from him. So yeah, I think he's a really, really good prospect. A lot to like if you go back and watch the full tape and see the end of the year.
Yeah, I think he's got a lot of good things going for him. And actually, I kind of felt, I think after looking at the tape of all these guys, that he maybe should be thought of a little bit higher than what he actually is. He's, brilliant against the run. That's kind of his main thing. He just swallows up the interior gaps really nicely. He's got that quick first step, which means he can get to the offensive tackle guy before there's any sort of like leverage that he loses out on. Really sort of like heavy, strong hands that deliver shocks to his opponent when he's going up against them. Like I say, he doesn't get stood up. He has low pad level. So he does all of that really nicely, and his technique's really good. He's shown at Georgia that he's versatile. He's played at nose tackle, but he's played 5 tech as well. And he kind of just generally has really good balance and body control. Very strong guy who can stack blockers when he wants to. So he's got lots and lots of positives about him, but it is all very much in the run game and sort of like plug in them gaps. So that's kind of what he's really good at. When you look at some of the issues, his tackling can be a bit inconsistent. His missed tackle rate actually jumped up a bit in 2025. As you were saying, it was largely at the beginning of the season. He did improve towards the end, so that's promising. I feel like he needs more moves. He is very much like ball rush, and that's his thing. So I'd like to see him maybe get a few more moves rather than just pure power. And then, like you said, he had shoulder surgery in 2024. Obviously, it looked like he was fine, but it's just something to remember. I think he's a really good run stopper, and he kind of reminded me of Maisie Smith a little bit. I think that's sort of this type of player that you're getting here. I actually think that he, like I say, I like him. I think that he's got a chance of going reasonably high. I think he's a day 2 guy, but I think he's got a pretty good chance of going in round 2, actually, rather than round 3, because he does have a lot of really good attributes against the run, and it's just going to be about whether a team really sort of falls for him. That's what it's going to come down to. So yeah, really liked him. But I think there's a limit when it comes to the whole thing, because it is literally run and pretty much that's it.
Yeah, I suppose the one thing he's got over some of the other guys in here, yes, he is predominantly a run defender, but he can play 1 tech, 3 tech, 5 tech. So he's got that versatility, can move across the line as well. Another note to make he was used at Georgia, have this rotational system where it doesn't matter what play it is, the guys are going to move and keep them fresh. So I think he's still got a lot to do. I don't think, if he was on any other team, he probably would have had 500-600 snaps, but obviously it wasn't up to that. So I think there's a lot left on the tires and a lot more in the locker for him. I had him down as a Sebastian Joseph Day style player.
Yeah.
Not the flashiest of names, but, had a lot of success at some really big teams. He played for the Rams, the Chargers, the Titans, and had a lot of success. So I think if you're going after a player like that, I feel like they're the unsung heroes of some teams, and they're not the flashiest of names, but they're definitely worth having on your team.
Yeah.
I also agree with you that day 2 should be in the second round. I think that's there might be a
I think what you'll find is that actually these 5 guys that we talk about, like I say, maybe the top 2, maybe they should sneak into the first, but I think the others are day 2, and that's kind of what we're looking at with it. So although we're saying that they're not necessarily the greatest of what we've had, they are actually solid players. And to be honest, in a draft class where it does feel a little bit like maybe it's not filled with great talent, it is actually, I think what's going to be really good is it's going to be whether teams can come out of it with a good 3 or 4 solid starters in their team that can really make the difference.
In at number 4, we have got Lee Hunter, nicknamed the Fridge. Not sure that's going to catch on when he gets to the NFL, because there's a bigger name with the same nickname as that. From Texas Tech Raiders. So Adam, you will be a big fan of this guy. 23 years old, 6'4", 318 pounds, 2 sacks, 26 pressures, and a pass win rate of 10.6%. He's a former 4-star recruit. In 2024, he was a first-team All-Big 12. Then he transferred, went to Texas Tech in 2025 when they had all the NIL and transfers, and they brought a lot of people in, and they were really spectacular last year as a team to watch. He had a great Senior Bowl as well, Adam. Lot to like about this guy.
Yeah, he's got, again, it's a similar sort of thing. He's kind of like very much a run stopper. He clogs up the interior gaps. He's got a thick, powerful base where he has the ability to just naturally anchor and stop players from being able to get past him. Really strong hands. He places them really nicely as well. So really good against the run. He had 58 run stops over the last 2 seasons that he played in college. Just generates power really, really well. And he is very much the sort of like the ball rush kind of guy again. This is what we've got. One thing that I liked about him slightly more than Miller, I think his tackling's better. I think he wraps up really nicely. And also he's got 3 years of production. You know, he's played 51 games. So that's a little bit more than what Miller has as well. Negative wise, he does lack lateral quickness and he doesn't have any moves. It is very much just ball rush and power, and that's it, in the same way that Miller was. He does get tired though. That's one thing that is a concern with Hunter. You sort of see it towards in fourth quarters. He can get tired. When he does get tired, he tends to get a bit tall. He loses out on leverage and loses out on his, you know, his pad level goes a bit wrong. And he does have a bit of like a limited bend to him compared to some other guys. Look, he's got, to me, he's a second round pick. I have him pretty much level with Miller. But there are a few things that he's got better. You know, he's got more experience. He tackles a bit better, but there's not much difference between these two guys. And I just sort of feel like he's going to be a solid second round pick, and he'll be a starter for someone and do really well. Kind of reminded me of Kenneth Grant a little bit. That was the one that I sort of went for with him. But yeah, I think again we've got another solid starter who's going to be very good against the run, but just lacks any real sort of pass rush sort of, I suppose, talent is kind of what it is. He doesn't have the moves, doesn't have the experience doing that. He's very much about stopping the run. So again, if there's a team out there in the second round who needs a run stopper, he'll be great for them.
Yeah, I mean, we saw last year that Cowboys were crying out for help stopping the run. So we're not saying that because of that they're useless. It's just a very specific need. But yeah, you know, good anticipation, plays through contact well, 32 tackles for loss on his career, which I think is fantastic. I had him down as a guy that I've seen quite a lot play, of Dalvin Tomlinson, who used to be at the Giants. I've seen a lot of that style of play. If you've got a good person next to him that can get pressure on, then the tandem works excellent. So really, really good in that aspect. I think he's got a chance at going in the second round.
Yeah. Like I say, I think, look, we are being a bit harsh on them, I suppose, and saying that they can only do one thing, but it's like, that's why they're a second round pick, not a first round pick.
Yeah. In at number 3, we have Caleb Banks from Florida Gators, 23 years old, 6'6", 327 pounds, no sacks, 3 pressures. And that is largely down to the fact he only played 3 games due to a foot injury, a reoccurring foot injury, actually, because that foot injury cropped up again at the combine, which we were really hoping that's when we'd see him showcase how much of an athlete he is at his size. Adam, super high upside on this guy. He is massive, and he did run, what did he run? A 4:05.40 before hurting his foot. I might steal the words out your mouth here. Very controversial of having him at 3, but boom or bust with this guy. The boom is might be worth the risk.
Yeah, possibly. I've kind of got, I feel like there's a little bit more chance of bust than there is boom with this one, which is a shame because he does show some really good traits. Obviously, huge frame, great size, really strong guy with a brilliant anchor. First step is actually pretty quick for a guy of his size as well. He does that nicely, creates that sort of like instant penetration against the O-line. He's been versatile position-wise. He's played all across the D-line. He's good for that. You know, really heavy, strong hands that stun the blockers. He can create leverage and just has real sort of like power. And when he is out there, he does have a good motor. He does have the ability to just keep going throughout the game. So that, you know, there's a lot of sort of attributes that he has that, like you say, can kind of make you feel like this guy can become something really, really impressive. There are some really big problems though with him as well. His pad level is way too high a lot of the time. It's probably because he's 6'6", so he's a bit taller, but his pad level is too high, especially when he does start getting tired towards the end of games. So that's a problem. Pass rush moves. he's got a really strong ball rush, and that's it. And kind of the same as the other guys. I don't feel like the pass rush moves are that great either. They need to be more varied. His tackling has a lot to be desired, to be brutally honest. You look on the tape, there's so many arm tackles, and it's just not good enough. And obviously he's just a bit of an inconsistent producer because of that, and it's that they're all kind of like real issues where it's like a lot of it can, you can improve your tackling, you can improve moves. So these are all things that coaching can help him with. But then obviously, as you say, we have the recurring foot issues as well, which has sort of taken away quite a lot of playing time, taken away the fact that he couldn't really do that much at the Senior Bowl. He had to have surgery, I believe, in March. So it's like it's caused issues for him, and it keeps happening. I think it's like you say, it is very much a boom or bust kind of pick, and it kind of depends how you feel about taking that on as a team. I think that's where it will be interesting to see where he does go. I think he's a round 2 guy because he does have serious potential. But it'll just be interesting to see who takes him. I feel like there are teams out there who could probably afford to take him and it not work out and they'll still be okay. But it'd just be interesting to see whether one of them does, or whether, because if you're a team that's really struggling in that area, I don't think you take him. But if you're a team that has got a little bit of depth there already, and you can sort of almost be like, oh, well, we can sort of just, slowly bring him in, then I think it might work a little bit better. So, yeah, I mean, he's got loads of great things going for him. He does have some issues. The foot issue is a big problem because it just keeps happening. But he's still a second-round pick for me.
Yeah, prior to the combine actually happening, he was mocked to be a first-round pick.
Yeah.
I think that is largely down to tools and traits.
Yeah.
He is also the first one of the guys that we're speaking about that has that hybrid interior defender, sort of like he has pass rush upside as well as run stopping. In 2024, when he was healthy, 21.4% pressure rate on third downs. It is there. It just needs unlocking, and it's just whether that foot is a problem. So the evaluation will probably see if he's taken high, the foot's not an issue. If he drops, I think it's the foot that's the problem, because tools and traits, I think I've got a high end comp for him because we don't really know what he is yet, due to the limited sample size we've got of him. But I'd say Jordan Davis in terms of size and athleticism is where I've got him. Have you got a comp for him, or there just wasn't enough?
No, I have. You're going to like it because it's a Texas Tech guy as well. I went with Shamar Turner. That's kind of where I feel like he's going to end up. I feel like he's not going to be this amazing player because I think he's just got there's a few too many issues here, and I think it's just going to take too much time to get him there. But yeah, I had Shamar Turner for him. But it is difficult to kind of get a real comp on this guy because there is just not a lot really to see. But yeah,
I thought Shamar Turner was a Texas A&M. Maybe I'm wrong.
I was in Texas A&M. I knew Texas something.
You're just obsessed with Texas.
Yeah.
In at number 2 is Caden McDonald from Ohio State Buckeyes, 21 years old, 6'2", 326 pounds, 2 sacks, 14 pressures, a win rate of 4%. Former 4-star recruit, actually played running back and D-line in high school. Became the full-time starter in 2025, where he was a first-team All-American, first-team All-Big Ten, and it was his breakout year. I'd argue this guy is 100% the best run defender in this class, Adam. Finished with a 92 PFF grade for his run defense, which is first among all interior defenders in college football last year. So, yeah. Gotta love this guy if that's what you want.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like you say, that he is the best run defender in this class. Great size and frame, similar to Banks, but he's got the same weight as Banks, but he's just much smaller, a bit more denser sort of thing. So he has that going for him, which is impressive. I saw I watched the tape for the Texas game where literally offensive tackles are just being thrown around the place. So it's like he has that about him. He's got really great anchors, strong hands. Considering his size, he's actually pretty athletic. You know, he's got the footwork, he's got the sort of little shimmies that he does and stuff like that, which is quite good. Good recovery skills as well. I think he can recover quite well. I think what I really liked about him though is that he just seems to always, that first step always takes him to the right place, and that's his brain working out where to go. He just seems to have a radar for the ball, which is interesting because that's a few Ohio State defenders that we have mentioned that for during this, where it seems to be that they just know where to go. And also, you know, he's proven against top opposition. Yeah, that's the other thing. He is proven against the top opposition. So I like that about him as well. A few concerns. I mean, you know, it's not really much of a concern, but he does have little arms, bless him. He does have some short arms for his position. Pass rush, I kind of felt like it was just ball rush again, largely because he is predominantly against the run. On passing downs, I felt like if they go on long, his motor does tend to run out a little bit, but it's like that is quite a common thing with a lot of them for guys of this size. And he does pop up out of his stance a few times, I noticed, which he just doesn't need to do, and he just needs to take his time a little bit more. But overall, I think he is the best run defender here. I wouldn't necessarily say he's the most reliable run defender, because I think Hunter and Miller are actually quite reliable as well. But I think that this guy is he's kind of like, he's just got that little bit of extra juice about him compared to what the others do. But yeah, really like him. We were talking before this, you were saying that you think potentially a team might come up for him in the first round. I think it's possible, but I think it's unlikely just because it's a defensive tackle. I don't know if it's necessarily what you spend the extra draft capital on to come up for the fifth round, to come out into the first round. So I think he's probably going to be a second round guy, but I think he's going to be very early second round. And he has the potential to sneak into the first, I'll say that. He reminded me of JJ Pegues. Do you remember him from last year? That was kind of who, I mean, I feel like this guy is better than him, but just the way, sort of his style and the way that he played reminded me of him. I've heard some people say Kenneth Grant again, which I said for one of the others, but for McDonald as well. And yeah, I like him. I think he's got a lot going for him. I just think the first round might be a tad too rich for him.
I don't. I think he is an elite run stop. So I think if he can improve slightly once he gets to the NFL, obviously only 21 years old, if he can improve the pass rush slightly, then he's a great prospect. I've seen him get double teamed and triple teamed and still come out as the winner. And you're talking about his tackles, 65 tackles as a nose tackle in 2025 is quite high, and 30 run stops as well on top of that, which led all of the defensive linemen again last year. I had a name that you'll be very familiar with, so you can tell me whether I'm right or wrong with this one, but I put Kenny Clark down as his comparison.
Yeah, I can kind of see it. I feel like Kenny Clark's a bit smaller and maybe not quite the same, but yeah, I mean, it's not far off of that. And obviously we've seen, haven't we, over the years at Green Bay, and actually we saw quite quickly when he went to Dallas, how much it did help the run, and how much that kind of is his sort of thing. And I feel like this guy would do some, again, you know, like I say, with all these guys, maybe not so much Banks, but with the other three that we've spoken about, any team that needs someone to stop the run, I think this is a great pick, but this is what this is what makes me think that maybe he won't be a first round guy, because yeah, okay, he's better than the other two, but I think a lot of teams are just going to come out and go, yeah, but the other two are there and we can take them second round and we like them as well.
He might sneak into, you know, that Patriots.
He might.
I've seen him watch at the Patriots quite a bit, so it might be around that area. Bills might be interested. In at number 1 is a guy I'm not going to give up on. It's Peter Woods, Clemson Tigers, 21, 6'2", 298 pounds, 3 sacks, 15 pressures, 8.1% win rate. Former 5-star recruit, played inside and outside in 2024. Made the 2025 Feldman's Freak List for his speed and power. You know, this guy is, for me, he's so versatile, and I think he's got pro caliber upside. I'm not going to give up on him. I had him as a top 10 pick at the start of the process, and he's just tumbled his way down for some unknown reason. But load to love about this guy, athletic, physical, you know, play strength. Adam, are you as excited about him as me, or are you in with the critics?
So it's weird, isn't it? Because this guy is completely different to what we've just spoken about on the other 4 guys, and this is what it kind of, in a way, it's almost difficult to compare them in the same class, because there is a massive difference here. Like, this guy is a good sort of almost 30 pounds lower than what we were talking about with Caleb Banks and Caden McDonald. So we've got a completely different guy to talk about. Real explosive first step. He's got that real sort of speed about him. He had really good combine 40. He did 4.75. So great sort of speed about him. Really like his body control. I think he can bend through the gaps very nicely. But he still has like that strong hands where he can push offensive tackles back. Really great swipe move. That's one thing that he definitely has, and does that very, very well. What I really like about him, and this is probably because he is just a little bit smaller, he's got a pretty solid sideline to sideline sort of ability about him, where he has that motor and that can go on all the way through the game, and he can move from left to right incredibly nice, like, well, being on the D-line. Scheme versatile. He's done nose to 5 tech like some of the others. Obviously his athletic testing numbers were pretty decent for what he was, especially the 10-yard split and the 40-yard that he did. So he's kind of a much more athletic, much more quicker guy compared to what we've been talking about with the others. Because he's like that, you lose out in different ways. So it's almost like that he needs to improve his gap discipline a little bit. It's like he does sort of, like, sometimes he can let guys come through. He gambles sometimes and obviously loses on occasion, which then means that the gap becomes bigger on the other side. I think he's got a really great swipe move, but that's about it. I feel like there's more pass rush moves that need to come into it. Obviously, he's not an edge rusher, so he's not going to have loads, but I feel like he could have more. And then, obviously, because he is just that little bit smaller, his anchor isn't quite as good against the really big guys that he comes up against, who are like over 300 pounds. His tackling can go a little bit missing when he gets a bit over aggressive. I noticed it's like he can sort of, like, if he gambles and he sort of really goes quick and he gets it wrong and he tries to sort of come back, the tackling can kind of go out the window a little bit and it all just sort of falls apart. That's the concern with him. I would say I think that this guy is a first round pick. I think that he deserves to be a first round pick, but I think he's going to end up being late first, which is a shame, really, because he was being sort of touted as a top 10 quite easily. Yeah. But I think, probably given everything that went on at Clemson last year, is what part of the reason why he's dropped down as far as he has. He reminded me of Jalen Redmond a little bit. That was kind of like that sort of defensive tackle where he does have that speed about him. But yeah, I think he's a first round pick. I don't know if he's going to get taken first round though. I hope he does, but I'm just not sure about it because I'm not 100% sure if any of these guys are going to end up in the first round. It kind of feels like, from what we have seen and what we've heard, it feels like the whole of the NFL is kind of a little bit out on this defensive tackle class, and they're all just a little bit like, yeah, they're not really good enough for a first round pick, so we're not going to go for them, which is a shame because I do feel like Peter Woods deserves to be a first round pick, and I feel like Caden McDonald probably could sneak in there, but we'll have to wait and see, I suppose.
Yeah, I think this guy can play up to the level of sort of like style of Jeffrey Simmons, which obviously is a massive name in the NFL. So if that's the type of talent you're going for and the impact that, you know, he's four-time Pro Bowler. So I feel like that's what you could get with this guy. So I think he's well worth a first-round pick. And I'm not getting off the train on the Peter Woods train. So yeah, it's all good for me. That is all of our defensive linemen. We have our linebackers coming up next. Must have to say, it's quite a deep linebacker class. We've only done a top 5. There is a lot of names that we probably could have put on here. If you go back and watch our Plant the Flag show, you'll hear us talk about one of your big ones that hasn't made our list. And there's a fair few other names, but I just feel like they're all very similar to range to what I've got at the guy at number 5. And then obviously some big names to talk about at the linebacker position. Another position that's kind of not really valued in the NFL as highly as it used to be. And again, there's a couple of different types of linebacker as well, in terms of you've got that hybrid edge linebacker, or you've got ones that go the other way, linebacker safety sort of coverage guys. So yeah, interesting group we've got here. Adam, how do you feel about the linebacker group?
Yeah, I think it's actually there's quite a bit of depth to it this year. I think it's quite a solid class. It's similar to the safety group, actually, that we were sort of talking about in a previous show, where it just kind of feels like, you know, these positions, they don't get valued as highly, they don't get thought of as much, but they, you know, you still need them in order to have a good defense. Otherwise, it doesn't work very well for you. So yeah, I think this year there's some good options. And I know what you were saying. I kind of get what you're saying about you pick the guy you've picked 5th. Yeah, they're kind of, there's quite a lot of them actually that are they've all kind of got the same attributes about them, and so there are some guys that you can look at and you could come out and go, oh, why didn't they get in the top 5 or whatever? But there's quite a few. I think there's a good 6 or 7 or 8 actually of really solid linebackers that can go, and it's just going to be about where they get ranked here and where people think they go. But I think a lot of them are going to be day 2 picks with the top guys being, you know, first rounders. But I do feel like a lot of these guys are day 2 picks, and you know, there is some quality here. Yeah,
definitely, easily. And there's some real big names at the top of this list. We'll jump right into it no more suspense, who we've got at number 5. And that is Josiah Trotter from Mizzou Tigers, 21 years old, 6'2", 237 pounds, 81 tackles, 3 sacks, 14 pressures, and 33 stops. His dad is Jeremiah Trotter, the former Eagles legend, and his brother we spoke about last year is Jeremiah Trotter Jr., who also went to the Eagles. So maybe Josiah goes to the Eagles at some point. I don't know. Yeah, loads to love about this guy. Adam, what did you see with this one?
Yeah, so what I saw in Josiah Trotter is that firstly, I think he's a really, really good run defender. That's kind of what his bread and butter is. He stops rushing lanes very, very quickly and does that really well. He's also got some really good, strong, reliable hands where, you know, he's good at the point of attack, and he just has that sort of strength in him to be able to stop the opposition. Really I think his lower body strength is decent. He's got a quick first step and kind of has that flexible hips where he can sort of get through traffic really nicely. Love the fact that I think he's a solid wrap up tackler. He's not the best, but he is solid and he does it really well. So he's got a lot of great things going for him. My concern with Trotter was that I feel like he doesn't quite have the sideline to sideline speed that some of these other guys have, and he's just he's not far off of it, but he's just not quite at that speed. He does seem a little slow to recognise routes when he's playing in coverage. That's a bit of an issue, and that's obviously something that maybe he could be coached up in. And I think because the speed is kind of a bit of an issue with him. His 40 wasn't bad. He was 77th percentile, so it wasn't awful. But compared to some of these other guys that are available, it wasn't as good. So sometimes he sort of struggles to mirror wide receivers that he's going up against as well. So that's a bit of a concern. But I kind of felt like he's got some really good attributes about him. I think out of the 5 guys we're going to talk about, he's definitely number 5. I would probably argue there's a couple of guys that you could argue could go above him, but there's not much difference. But he kind of reminded me of Demetrius Knight a little bit. I think that's kind of the sort of player that we're getting here. And I think he's round 2, late round 2, I think is probably what I'd say. I think round 3 might be pushing it a little bit, but yeah, late round 2, I think that he could have a shot at getting drafted there.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think in terms of what he's done, 183 tackles over the last 2 years. He was at Mizzou and West Virginia, but he was Mizzou's defensive leader when he was on the field. He tended to deal with a lot of the alignments. He directed a lot of the players pre-snap. But I do find he is probably, for me, a little bit too one-dimensional in terms of his plays. He's great run defender, and as you say, his coverage is what lets him down big time, which is why he's no higher on this list. He had if you're blitzing, you're getting him on the field, 25% pressure rate when blitzing. He actually, when they knew it was going to be a pass play, he was taken off the field quite a bit at Missouri. So if you're blitzing and you want to bring in a package, I think this is the guy you want to bring in. I think he's absolute heat-seeking missile when it comes to a run defender. So loads of upside in terms of that. As I said, bit one-dimensional. I thought maybe sort of like a Azeez Al-Shaair, Nakobe Dean sort of type of player, not quite that level, but similar style as them. So I think if you've got a good core, you might be really interested in this guy. If you're looking for a guy that's going to be on the field 24/7, you're probably going to pass on him.
Yeah.
In at number 4, we have got Anthony Hill Jr., Texas Longhorns, 21 years old, 6'2", 238 pounds, 63 tackles, 3 sacks, 16 pressures, 30 stops. This guy's a former track guy as well, did relay as well. So obviously got that elite speed with him. Absolutely fantastic at the combine. I think it was 4.51, 40 and a 1.58.10 as well, which is top 3 at his position. This is one of the first Texas Longhorns players that we would talk about. And obviously they had a lot of hype last year that they were going to be the champions. So seems a bit odd that this is one of the rare Texas players we're talking about as well.
Yeah, it has been strange that we haven't had many of them come through, but I don't know if there's an element of they're all
returned and
they're all returned and
they reckon they'll be big next year.
Yeah. So so it's funny actually, because this guy is the same height and he's only I think he's 1 pound more than what Trotter is. They're very, very similar sizes, yet very, very different players. This guy is a great sideline to sideline range. He's got elite speed, as we saw, what he did with the at the combine and stuff like that. But you see it on the tape as well. He's just so much quicker. Runs downhill with attack, real sort of aggressive style that he plays. I actually quite like the fact that his tackling grades were decent. He was like 90th percentile. I was really good tackler, really quick processor. I find that there's very rarely a false step or any sort of misdirection. He just sort of like, he decides where he's going and he just seems to read it very well and know where to go. 8 career force fumbles against SEC opponents. Good pass rushing ability as well. He's had 17 sacks in his college career. You can see he's got like really nice dip and bend moves that he does. So he's got a lot going for him. I think this is a day 2 pick. A round 2 pick,
Round
definitely.
2, yeah. I think he might be top of round 2 as well.
I think that's probably fair, and that's where he should be considered. And he's kind of not getting spoken about as much because of who's we've got left to talk about. Sometimes he can be a bit over aggressive, but that's kind of just the way that he plays. Sometimes he tackles high, which is a bit, he needs to sort of sort that out, but that's something that can be sorted out. As part of the whole over aggressive thing, I think play action, sometimes it draws his eye and he goes the wrong way because he's just too aggressive at that beginning because he thinks that's definitely where it goes. And yeah, I think he's got, I think that's it really. I think there are things that can be sorted out with this guy, and it's just about, to a certain extent, it's about calming him down, and maybe just not going so aggressively at certain things. But yeah, I think he's an early round 2 guy. He reminded me of Jamin Davis. That's the kind of guy that who I kind of see in him. And yeah, I think he's got a lot of positives. And if there's a team out there who just need a solid linebacker, this is the guy who's going to be able to make a difference I think from day one.
Yeah, I think he's a real sleeper pick in this draft. I think he's, as you say, flown under the radar, got real potential, ton of experience as well. He's a 3-time All-American, led the SEC in tackles for loss in 2024. I put violent downhill runner on there, and sometimes maybe the violence is maybe a bit too much, but that speed as well, it's just it's incredible. I put he could play style of Dre Greenlaw for me, so ton of experience as well. So as I said, that easily for me he's the sleeper of round 2, and someone's going to get an absolute steal, I think, with this guy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it'd be great, and he'd do really well for someone.
In at number 3, we have CJ Allen, Georgia Bulldogs, 21, 6'1", 230 pounds, 94 tackles, 4 sacks, 13 pressures, 39 stops. Former 4-star recruit, played quarterback, running back, linebacker, basketball, was track and field runner, and also did shot put. So did a little bit of everything before. I'll go into my little bits a little bit later. Adam, what did you love about him?
So the one thing that I really liked about him is that he is probably the definition of a textbook tackler. He really does have that about him, and he wraps up very, very well. Low missed tackle rate across all the last 3 seasons that he played. I think he's a good downhill runner as well. He fills the gaps very nicely. Kind of has that competitive nature about him. Like you say, he played all them sports, but he's a competitive player. He wants to sort of like get contact with the opposition and bring them down. I think he covers sideline to sideline really, really well. He's got the speed to be able to do that as well. And then from what I read about him, just high IQ, natural communicator. Apparently a lot of people say that it's like having a veteran there who's been there for a long time, knows exactly what to do, and does that all really well. What I would say about him is I think that there are times he can be flat-footed, certainly against play action. He doesn't necessarily have that speed. He's got speed, but he doesn't have the speed that like the Anthony Hill speed we were talking about. So he can get flat-footed a little bit. He's a little bit smaller, so he lacks the sort of like the physicality in order to stop bigger blockers. He sort of struggles with that a little bit. And then the one thing that I kind of noticed when watching him, it's quite a, I don't know how to put it nicely. It's quite a boring tape to watch. Like, nothing really happens. He's very solid. It's very kind of, it feels a little bit average, but you can tell he's better than that. But it's like, there's no big moments, there's no turnovers, there's no explosive hits or sort of like splash plays or anything like that. They don't really exist with him. He's just a very solid linebacker who tackles very well and sort of like has the ability to communicate, and it's like he does everything right, but there's nothing flashy about this guy. And so I feel like, in a way, that's not necessarily the worst thing in the world, but sometimes you do kind of want to see that they have the ability to do that if needed.
Yeah, 100%. I think, you know, I've used the word elite twice for him. I do think he is an elite run tackler. But the main one that I've used it, I think, is you brought it up, but I think it's a trait in his that I think is worth its weight in gold, of the elite IQ. In terms of what he did at Georgia, he's their green dot player. So he calls the on-field plays, and he makes the pre-snap adjustments. And you've got to remember, he does all this for a Kirby Smart pro-style system. He's calling the adjustments and the plays on the field. And I feel like that's worth its weight in gold when you're moving up to the NFL, when you already get and know how to run a pro-level defense at that position. So I think that's worth its weight in gold with him. He's got that blitz upside. And another thing that I really love with him, he has 3-down capability. Some of the guys we spoke about prior to this, we're talking about taking them off the field, using them correctly. I think this guy's got 3-down capability, which I think is also a massive tick and upside for him, which is why I've got him in at number 3 above the other guys as well. So yeah, I kind of thought his play styles kind of Zaire Franklin, Eric Kendrick sort of type of player. What have you got down for him, Adam?
I actually didn't really have anyone down for him. I sort of struggle with it, but yeah, I can see where you're coming with Franklin and stuff like that. So yeah, I didn't really. Do you think he gets into the first round? I think he's kind of.
He has the ability
sure.
to get into the back end of the first. Has the ability.
Yeah,
but
I'm not sure if someone takes him though.
Again, I think he's out of the ones we spoke about prior. I think he's got the best chance of sneaking into the first.
Yeah,
but I do think he's going to go in the second. Well,
yeah, he's a good player. Just kind of lacks a few things.
Well, in at number 2 is Sonny Styles, guy you're a massive fan of. Ohio State Buckeyes, 21, 6'5", 244 pounds, 88 tackles, 2 sacks, 15 pressures, 47 stops. Former 5-star recruit, actually was recruited to play safety. We're saying he's a 5-star safety coming into college, and then he moved to linebacker. So he's got that hyper elite hybrid ability that we've kind of not overly seen with people. Adam, talk us through why we should be in love with Sonny Styles.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, just the size of the frame and you know, I mean, we're talking about someone who's bigger than all the other guys we've spoken about. He's taller than all the other guys that we've spoken about, and yet he has probably better athletic attributes than what the guys we've spoken about have said. It's like, you know, Anthony Hill is very, very quick. This guy is quicker. You know, he's got everything going for him when it comes to the athletic side of stuff. He had a great combine. I also think that he has that ability. You know, the sideline to sideline with speed is not a problem at all for this guy. He's also got really good coverage ability. I think that he does that very nicely. He reads the game incredibly well. He's got really strong hands where he can sort of punch against the opposition and separate very nicely. Really reliable tackler, does that incredibly well. Diagnoses the pre-snap really well, got a high IQ. As I said, good coverage, good in zone, just reads everything really well. And kind of sees what's coming. There's very little things that are concerning when it comes to this guy. He can be over aggressive, and that's something that, but sometimes with these sort of players who are like that, who are going at 100 miles an hour all the time, I think you just have to accept that that's what you get sometimes. But against play action, he can be over aggressive. If he doesn't quite read it right, he might go the wrong way, and that causes a problem for him. He's only played 2 full seasons at linebacker because, like you said, he was dealing with safety. So he's still learning, which is kind of a weakness, but it's kind of a strength as well, because you're sort of going, he's only played 2 seasons in this position, and you just sort of think, how good can he actually become? He's a first round pick all day. I think he's a top 10 pick easily. I don't know if he necessarily breaks into the top 5, but I think he's easily top 10. He reminded me of a linebacker who I really liked a couple of years ago, which is funny actually that they kind of both came up. Jack Campbell.
Okay.
So that's kind of who he reminded me of, and yeah, he's got everything going for him, and he's got time on his side as well, because he's still learning. So yeah, he's great, and I think he'll do really well for whoever takes him.
Yeah, I think he's probably the most complete prospect that we've actually spoke about here. You know, there isn't many things to really talk about negatives with him. As we said, you know, he made the Falmouth's freak list because of his rare size, speed, and agility, and he has the ability to cover as a safety, but the ability to come down and be an elite run defense like an edge rusher. Yet he's a linebacker and can do virtually everything. You talked about his combine, sub 4.5 40, over 40 on the vertical, over 11 on the broad. It's just insane what he can do. And yeah, you're getting the complete package if you draft him. So I think he's well worth that high pick, despite the fact he's a linebacker. But as we said, he's a linebacker that can play safety and edge. Do you think if he was at Ohio, or if he was and he had another year there, do you think we'd see him kind of move into that sort of linebacker edge role as well that Reese was playing? Obviously, he's not going to get that chance because Reese was doing it. But I think he's got the ability to do that. He could be that off-ball linebacker edge hybrid as well.
Yeah, I mean, possibly. I think he'd have to put a bit of weight on, not a lot, but a little bit, because he would be a bit small to play that. But I think he's not far off. I mean, you get like people like David Bailey. I think he's only like 4 or 5 pounds bigger than what Styles is. So yeah, I mean, he does have that about him, and he probably could. I suppose the only thing with that is whether it's kind of about learning more about the technique of it and going around the outside and all that sort of thing. But you know, I mean, he's clearly a very quick learner, so I think that it wouldn't be an issue for him. But yeah, I mean, I think to have the versatility that this guy has, and to be able to play at that speed with that strength in so many different positions, I think he's going to be worth his weight in gold. I really do. And yeah, I mean, like I say, I think he's top 10. I don't necessarily think he'll be top 5, but someone's going to get a hell of a player.
Well, he's been mocked in the top 5, isn't he? So
he has. I don't know. I just don't. You sort of think who takes him. I don't. Obviously, the Raiders won't. I don't see the Jets taking him.
You don't see the Giants taking him?
I think that I don't know with the Giants. I just feel like I think that the Giants is the one where it could be. You know, that's where it becomes, if he does make it into the top 5, he sneaks in because of the Giants. But I don't know. I don't know if the Giants. I think the Giants are a great trade back candidate. I really do. So I don't even know if they pick up 5, and yeah, he possibly. But I think his range is probably going to be a little bit lower than that.
Yeah, well, in at number 1, no surprises here. We're still calling him a linebacker. Is he a linebacker? Is he an edge rusher? Who knows?
Well, he's smaller
Arvell,
than Styles, so
yeah. Arvell Reese, Ohio State Buckeyes, 20 years old, 6'4", he's only 3 pounds lighter, the same height. 241 pounds, 69 tackles, 8 sacks, 24 pressures, 35 stops. Probably the most versatile weapon in this draft that we've got. A lot of hype on this guy. Split time between linebacker and edge in his last year. Hasn't played a full year at edge, but we're saying with what he can do, he's an edge rusher going into the NFL.
Yeah, I think he certainly has the potential to do that. And like I say, I feel like he needs to put a bit of weight on. But aside from that, I think he's pretty much there. Again, another one with great sideline-to-sideline speed. Has a really nice sort of closing burst as well to take on tacklers. Does that very well. Elite run defender. Diagnoses the play so quickly and really does that well. Great tackler. 4 missed tackles from about 70 stops in 2025. Strong, powerful, good at the point of attack. He's got position versatility, like you say. Linebacker, can play edge as well. I like his pass rush. I think that's good. He's got an explosive first step and just has the ability to win with speed really, really well. He's done it against top competition in the same way that Styles has as well. But it's like, done it against top competition. And yeah, again, another player with very few weaknesses. I think he can get a bit aggressive against play fakes. I think he struggles with that sometimes, and he just needs to rein that in a little bit. I think he relies on his athleticism a little bit too much. Needs to come up with a few more pass rush moves, which I'd like to see, especially when he's playing edge. And only really 1 full season as a starter, which, again, it's the same sort of thing as Styles, but so much, just so much going for him. I think he's a top 5 pick quite easily. I think he's got everything that you want. He reminded me of Nolan Smith a little bit. That was kind of what I felt with him, but I think he could be better than that. Yeah, he's got everything going for him. If the Jets do take him at 2, which is what there has been a lot of rumours about that for most of this off season, that's where it feels like he's going to go, then the Jets are going to get themselves a very good linebacker edge rusher, which they need as well. So yeah, I think he'll be great from day one.
Yeah, he's like the ultimate chess piece. So I think NFL coaches are going to fall in love with him. We didn't put it on this one because we're doing linebackers, but 22.7% pressure rate. He's got all the tools. He obviously played under Matt Patricia in his last year and has learned very, very quickly, and really hit the scene, and everybody's in love with him and thinks he's amazing. And that's what he's learned in such a small time. But we've got to remember, he is very young and he is a developmental prospect for the NFL. So we have to bear that in mind. But if he can learn at the rate that he's learned at college under Patricia, then, what's the limit? The limit's Micah Parsons, isn't it? Which is what a lot of people are comping him to in terms of what he can achieve at the next level. So we've just seen your Green Bay Packers give up a lot to go and get that guy. So you could get this guy in the draft and not have to give up as much. I think that's worth its weight in gold.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you can get this guy, then at that sort of price, then it's brilliant. Obviously, the problem is in order to get there, you've got to be pretty bad for a season before. But yeah, he really does have everything that you want, and that is one of the main negatives. It is that it has only been 1 season as a starter, and it has, and that's kind of the same thing for Styles as well. It's like both of them. It's the same sort of thing. There's not a great deal of experience of playing in these positions, and they've moved around a lot, but they've learned very quickly. And you do have to, you would know much more than me, but you do have to sort of wonder to a certain extent. We're talking about an awful lot of these Ohio State defenders in this draft and how good they are and how we think they're going to be great. But and Ohio State had a good season, but when it got to the playoffs, they fell off very quickly, and it all sort of fell apart.
Well, I wouldn't say it fell apart. They got knocked out
You
by Indiana.
lost pretty early.
They lost to Indiana, who were
But what I'm saying is why did it become such a because these guys, you would think the way that we are talking about them, you would think that they had won the whole thing.
Well, the year prior, they obviously did win the whole thing, didn't they?
Yeah.
Not the same core team exactly, but they were the number one defense in the whole of the country for the whole of last year in terms of the season. You know, let's not just take out the fact that, they got knocked out. They didn't win it all, but they were the number one defense in terms of stats. They played some tough teams throughout the year. They played in the Big Ten, which is notoriously hard to play in. They just came up against Mendoza and he had the better of them on that day. Whether it was played over a few days, like a sort of best of three, who would come out on top might be a different story. If it was played at Ohio State, then, would they have had the home field advantage and won it there? Maybe. So I think it's hard to say that it fell apart in the playoffs, considering, like I say, number one defense for the season. And it's a pro level defense as well in terms of the scheme. So the next level is not going to be a big jump for them.
Yeah, so that's promising then, isn't it? That you kind of feel like that's good, that's how they are, and that's what it boiled down to, and it wasn't anything significant. Because I think a lot of people do sort of look at it and go, we are talking about all these great players, and yet for some reason they didn't win. And obviously I know it's not just about the defense, and you need an offense as well, but Ohio State's offense was solid as well, wasn't it? So it's like, I think it's just worth remembering that there are reasons behind things and stuff like that.
It was 13-10, wasn't it? They conceded 13.
So it was like that. I mean, it's bear in mind that Ohio, Indiana were decent. The defense
played well. The offense didn't. If you can hold your opponent in the playoffs to 13 points, that's one touchdown. Then your offense should be putting up more than 10. And I think the offense was very young. Julian Saints' first year. Yes, Jeremiah Smith is the best wide receiver in college, but again, very, very young. We lost a lot of offensive players the year prior. So, I'm not going to say it's the defense's fault. It's not as if they got blown out and it was a shambles. They gave up one touchdown. Yeah. Well, so that's completed everyone. That's all of that. We will have, as I say, our mock draft, official franchise tag mock draft out next week. And then we've got the draft. And it'd be very exciting to find out where all these players land. It's been really good going through all of these prospects. Really enjoyed the top 10s again, as I do every year. So I'll be looking forward to it again next year, Adam.
Yeah, no, it's been good going through them all. A little bit of a different draft this year, I think, for a lot of people. Feels like the flashy players, the wide receivers, the running backs, maybe not quite as exciting as what they were. Certainly the quarterbacks are not as exciting, but there's still some really good players there. And, it should be interesting to see who takes who once next Thursday rolls around.
But till then, keep it the franchise tag and see you.